Okay, relax, Doc. It's me. It's Martin.
No, it can't be. Just sent you back to the future.
Oh, I know you did send me back to the future, but I'm back. I'm back from the future.
Great Scott.
Welcome once again, my fellow manipulators of digital fate. I'm Richie, this is Capricorn, and today I have another crazy deck for all of you guys. This is something I just got done brewing, and it's nuts. This is called Paradoxing, and the idea is we're doing Simic +1/+1 counters, ridiculous synergies that allow us to go wide with creatures that go insanely tall with counters. But what makes this deck really crazy is once we've tricked our opponent into using up all of their removal, taking out our key board presence, and they think they've regained control of the game, that's when things really heat up, because we have a combo baked into this deck, hidden in the midst of it, where we use Twitching Doll and the new Zimone with Agatha's Soul Cauldron to just spit out a million spiders, to put a million counters on everything, to turn everything on our board into absolute ridiculous value. It's absolutely insane. You have to see it to believe it. Before we break down the deck and then get to the gameplay, please like the video, help this video get out to so many more people. I would appreciate it so much. And subscribe if you're new so you never miss an upload. Tons of crazy deck techs on the way. We've got Pioneer Masters coming next week, and I'll have some crazy Pioneer decks coming out of that, so look forward to that. But also catch me live Monday through Friday over on Twitch. That's twitch.tv/QuarantineCapricorn, because if I'm alive and I'm breathing, I'm there and I'm streaming. Let's break this thing down. This deck is kind of amazing. So we're leveraging a ton of crazy +1/+1 counter synergies to go really insane with the board state. But then the combo kicks in if our opponent's ever able to deal with our board state, or even if they don't, sometimes the combo still kicks in. So the entire deck is built around Agatha's Soul Cauldron. 2 mana for a legendary artifact. We can spend mana as though it were mana of any color to activate abilities of creatures we control. Creatures we control with +1/+1 counters on them have all activated abilities of all creature cards exiled with Agatha's Soul Cauldron. And then we can tap it, exile any card from a graveyard. And when a creature card is exiled this way, you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. So you can start handing out abilities from your creatures onto all of your creatures that have +1/+1 counters. And since the entire deck is built on going super wide with creatures that are going really tall with +1/+1 counters anyway, Agatha's Soul Cauldron, one activation, removing the right creature from the graveyard, means most of the things on our board are automatically just going to turn into that creature, have those activated abilities in an instant right away. We don't necessarily have to put a counter on something with the Soul Cauldron in order to give those activated abilities to all of our other creatures that already have counters, which is nuts. And that's why we're using 4 Twitching Doll. As you tap this for mana, you get to put a nest counter on it, and then at any point in time you can tap and sack the Twitching Doll to create 2/2 reach spiders for each counter that's on the Twitching Doll. And the key part about this card that makes it work so well is it counts every single counter. So if you're playing it fair, you're building up nest counters over time and eventually sacrificing it to get some value with spiders. But we don't want to play this fair. We want to just pile up all of the +1/+1 counters in the world on this thing so that we can sacrifice it to get a ton of spiders. But what makes it even better, not only can we do that super early in the game, but we can actually, after sacrificing this and putting it into the graveyard, exile it with the Agatha's Soul Cauldron. Now all of our creatures that have counters are getting the ability to not only tap for mana and add additional nest counters on themselves, in addition to they're already getting so many +1/+1 counters, but we also gain the ability for all of those creatures to tap and sack to make 2/2 green spiders equal to the number of counters on them. And since a lot of the creatures in this deck are able to stack up super tall with counters super quick, you can come out of nowhere and create insane board states with a ton of 2/2 spiders when your opponent doesn't even see it coming. And then not only that, but you can start leveraging counters on the 2/2 spiders to turn them into Twitching Dolls as well, so that you can start sacking spiders to make even more spiders. It's absolutely insane. But Twitching Doll is not the only thing that synergizes well with Agatha's Soul Cauldron, we're also running 3 copies of Zimone Paradox Sculptor. This is the new Zimone that came in Foundations, a 1/4 legendary human wizard for 4 mana in the colors of Simic. It is a bit expensive, but at the beginning of combat on your turn, you put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures you control. That alone is pretty powerful. This is going to have a huge target on its back, and your opponent's going to want to kill it as soon as possible. But even if it dies, we get to exile it with Agatha's Soul Cauldron to get its activated abilities, which is the best part of this card. Pay 1 blue, 1 green, tap it, double the number of each kind of counter on up to 2 target creatures and or artifacts. So not only do you get to double the +1/+1 counters on 2 different creatures, but you also double every counter on those creatures. So if they've built up nest counters from the Twitching Doll, those nest counters will double as well. You can exponentially increase how many spiders you can make with Zimone in insane ways. And sometimes you don't even need to go there. Like, just being able to toss out counters and double counters with Zimone, or with Zimone's ability after you exile it with the Soul Cauldron, is sometimes enough to just trample over for insane damage and close out the game before you even get to the point where you're trying to make spiders. Zimone is insane, Twitching Doll is insane, they both get better with the more counters that you're using, and they both are super good with Agatha's Soul Cauldron, so that's sort of the glue that glues this entire deck together. We're also running 1 copy of Marvin, Murderous Mimic, because not only can it get the activated abilities of the Twitching Doll and the activated abilities of the Zimone, but if you exile one of those or anything with an activated ability with the Soul Cauldron, now all of your creatures with +1 counters are going to get those abilities. So even if Marvin doesn't have a +1/+1 counter on him yet, he can immediately get those abilities that all of the creatures with counters are getting from the Soul Cauldron without even putting a counter on him. So sometimes it's a good way of getting extra ways to trigger things. Maybe if you are only able to put 1 counter on 1 thing on your turn, you can still turn that thing into whatever you want and give Marvin the ability as well. So a little bit of extra value there, which I really like. But starting at the bottom of the curve, the way we're able to make this work so super well and super consistently is we're running 4 copies of Llanowar Elves. Not only can we start buffing this up with counters and use it to ramp ourselves up, but it's Llanowar Elves. We can jump right to a 3-drop on turn 2, which is absolutely nutty. We've also got 2 copies of Ingenious Prodigy. Even if this comes down as just a 1-drop and doesn't have any counters on it to begin with, we have so many ways in this deck of dumping counters onto it, drawing extra cards every turn, and every now and then the Skulk ability can actually matter and let us swing underneath like a Valgavoth or something and get through for lethal, which is really nice. We've also got 4 copies of Wildwood Scourge, 1 green and X. It enters with X +1/+1 counters on it, and whenever 1 or more +1/+1 counters are put on another non-Hydra creature you control, you put a +1/+1 counter on this creature as well. So as we start to use all of our synergies to pile counters on everything else in the deck, this is just going to get counters additionally every single time and get big as well. We could just exponentially increase the amount of counters that we're getting on the field at any given time by using a card like this and make sure we get it out early before we start stacking all of our counters on things. And being able to sacrifice this after it has 6, 7, or 8 counters on it to make a whole board of spiders is so sweet and so fulfilling. But moving on to the 2-drop slots, we're running just 1 Bristly Bill, which in this deck is awesome. We are running 4 Fabled Passages to help trigger him a little bit more consistently with that landfall ability. Whenever a land we control enters, we get to put a +1/+1 counter on a creature, which is some nice value in this deck because we can get way more out of those counters in this deck than in a normal deck. But the other thing that's great about Bristly Bill is if he does die and he's in a graveyard, we can exile him with the Agatha's Soul Cauldron to give every single creature that has a counter the ability to pay 5 mana and double the number of +1/+1 counters on each creature you control, which is insane. If all of our creatures have that ability, now our opponent can't get rid of that ability unless they have a sweeper. And since we have so much mana ramp with the 4 Llanowar Elves and the 4 Twitching Dolls, it's actually pretty easy to get to that 5 mana. So this is a card that under normal circumstances I would like to play more than 1 copy of, but since it's legendary and there are so many cards that want to be in this deck, we're going to stick just to 1, just like we have the 1 Marvin over here. We also have 4 copies of Innkeeper's Talent. Not only is it spitting out counters left and right, giving us a little bit of extra protection by adding Ward 1 to everything that has a counter, which is pretty much everything. But if we can level this up to level 3, we're doubling the number of counters we put on things every time we put counters on things. And since we put so many counters on things, so many different instances of it, we're just going to get so many more counters off of level 3. It gets absolutely absurd. We're also running 4 copies of Repulsive Mutation, and even though we don't have any strict removal in the main deck here, running 4 copies of this is pretty insane. It allows us to counter their board sweeps, anything that's going to just completely blow us out, while also getting to add a metric ton of counters onto a creature all at the same time. And if we wait to cast the Repulsive Mutation until we have Innkeeper's Talent built up and we can double those counters, it gets really absurd. And speaking of doubling counters, we can also do it with Ornery Tumblewagg. We have 4 of these in the 3-drop slot. A 2/2 at the beginning of combat on your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Obviously, if we have the Innkeeper's Talent leveled up, that'll be 2 counters. And then we can saddle it for 2, and whenever Ornery Tumblewagg attacks while saddled, you double the number of +1/+1 counters on target creature. So this is another way to not only spit out extra counters every single turn, but another way to double counters all in one fell swoop by swinging with a saddled Tumblewagg. There's just so many ways to double counters in this deck, it gets absolutely insane. Our opponent can't take out all of them. So eventually they run out of removal, we have a crazy board state, and we're able to just start doubling counters and go absolutely nuts. What's also cool is we are running 2 copies of Mossborn Hydra. Now I don't want to go too crazy with the Hydras in this deck because they are a bit of a nombo together. The Wildwood Scourges only get additional counters when things are put on other creatures, if it's put on another non-Hydra creature. But I think 6 Hydras is the magic number because that's going to put 1 in every 10 cards roughly, if we're running a 60 card deck, which we are. So consistently we're probably ending up with just 1 Hydra period by turn 4. And I think those numbers work out. So we don't really want to get the Mossborn Hydras at the same time as the Wildwood Scourges, but a package of 6 cards that are the type Hydra I think kind of works. So to go with the 4 Wildwood Scourges, we are going to run 2 Mossborn Hydras. And this card's nuts because not only does it have trample, and it's another way for us to win the game, but it has this landfall ability that whenever a land we control enters, we double the number of +1/+1 counters. So we can start exponentially increasing the number of counters that are on a Mossborn Hydra, and even if we don't attack in and win with the Hydra itself, we can then sack the Hydra after it becomes a twitching doll because of Agatha's Soul Cauldron, and just make all of the spiders in the entire world. It's absolutely insane. You have to see this deck to believe it because it's actually kind of nuts. It just goes so big, so quick, and it has so many redundancies built in. Like, no matter how much removal your opponent uses, you always have something that can come back from it. You always have something that can still double counters. You always have something you can still put a counter on with a Soul Cauldron and then sack to make a million spiders. They just can never get rid of everything, and anything at all can give you all the value in the world. And then you have the Repulsive Mutations to protect your key stuff. So the deck is pretty nuts. We're running the 4 Fabled Passages to make sure we can get those double landfall triggers on the Hydra and on the Bristly bill. We're running 1 Mirrex because it can give us some extra pieces on the board that we start to stack counters on. We're running 1 Crawling Barrens because we can actually pay mana to put counters on this, which can kind of synergize with a lot of the stuff we're doing. We don't want to go too crazy with these because we do need to make sure we have our colored mana, but I think it's worth adding 1 here. Other than that, we're just running the dual lands, 4 Yavimaya Coast and 2 Botanical Sanctums, so that we make sure we're curving out well. 4 Hedge Mazes as my tapped land of choice, because getting to Surveil in this deck can be super helpful. Not only do we dig 1 card closer to the things that we might need, but we get to put something in our graveyard a lot of times that we'll get to exile later with Agatha's Soul Cauldron, which is really nice. And then just 7 forests and 1 island that we can find with those Fabled Passage I mentioned earlier. And honestly, it works great. The blue is kind of just a splash, so we don't need a lot of it. We've just got the 3 Zimones, the 4 Repulsive Mutations, and the 2 Prodigies. If I was going to make any changes to this deck after running it on the ladder, I think the only thing I might consider doing is increasing the number of Ingenious Prodigies, because getting access to all of this card draw can be pretty nuts, and a lot of times it comes down on a board where there are just other things that are so much more threatening that our opponent has to deal with, that they can't take their eye off those threats and instead use their removal on the Prodigy. So we can get a lot of value out of the Prodigy. But anyway, the deck as it is just really nuts. I'm kind of loving it. I'm gonna shut up and we're gonna check out the games, because you have to see them to believe them. Alright, we can keep this. This looks pretty good. Keep 7. Oh, Plain Dane's mulliganing. Yeah, I'd like to figure out the cheapest way to put a permanent +1/+1 counter on every creature. Like, it'd be nice if we could make a bunch of spiders and then in a somewhat cheap way just like turn them all into whatever our Soul Cauldron exiles with just like 1 card. I know there's a white card, one of the spree cards, that's pretty good at that. But I think the green cards are pretty expensive that do it. Alright. Bill's coming out to play. Welcome to Bill's town. It's a trap. Literally. Welcome to Bill's town. Plain says, welcome to Bill's town. Let's get a counter and do all of the counter stuff. Alright, swing 4. He's got Oculus next turn. But we're getting pretty darn aggressive. If he kills something, we got Soul Cauldron, which is nice. If he doesn't, you know what? Maybe we should have just played the Soul Cauldron anyway to stop his helping hand. Maybe that would have been even better. We could have played like the Hedge Maze instead of a 3rd land. That's okay. We'll be able to hold it up next turn. Ooh, exercise. Exercise the D-Man. Another Tumblewagg. We really need to get that Soul Cauldron into play, though. So we're not going to find it. We're going to grab an island. Play Innkeeper's Talent. Play Agatha's Soul Cauldron. Do we swing? Do we race? I mean, we're not going to be able to shut down a flyer, right? Yeah, we got to keep the extra 2/2s off the board, I think. We got to keep the extra 2/2s off the board. Raucous Entertainer. Interesting idea, Brownie Man. Alright. So we hold up the Soul Cauldron. If he tries to use like Helping Hand or something, we exile it in response, effectively shutting down the rest of those types of cards. I think we can beat the Oculus. I think we can race it. We'll see what happens. Pass to attackers. Pass. Pass. My turn. Alright, well, we'll get rid of an Oculus. Put a counter on. Sure. What else you got in there? Picklock Prankster? That we can exile. Exorcise the demon. I think we're better off doing this. Hedge Maze. Put the Twitching Doll in the yard. Ornery. Bornery. Phantom Interference. Didn't see that coming. That's fine. Counter, counter. Swing 8. Next turn, we can sack the Tumblewagg to make 1,000,000 reach blocking spiders for the Oculus. I did take a chance and take one turn where we let our guard down with the Soul Cauldron, so he could theoretically mill an Oculus or a Haughty Djinn and get it out with a Helping Hand right now. But I think it was worth the chance just to make sure that we had a way to get insane value next turn and be able to kind of beat this Oculus. Alright. Manifest Dread. Sure. What goes in the yard? A Soul Partition. We're gonna go Mossborn Hydra. Fabled Passage. Do we want to crack it yet? I don't know if we want to crack it yet. Honestly. Getting a little bit greedy here. It's lethal if he doesn't block. So he has to block. Unless he held up removal. He could have. Okay, he did. Alright. Fine. 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 I shouldn't have been greedy. I should have just sacked it for the spiders. That's what I should have done. That is what I should have done. Filer of Vigor, Titania's Command. some white stuff. Yeah. Alright. Pass. Okay, he wasn't able to flip his face down card into another Oculus. Which is pretty good for us. We definitely need to make the spiders now, because things are getting wild. Wild, wild, wild. So, Hedge Maze. Double. Actually, I should have waited on that, because I'm about to do some crazy stuff. Alright, we're going to exile his other Picklock Prankster. Next to combat. Counter. Counter. No attacks. We'll make 16 2/2 reach creatures. And there ain't nothing you can do about it. End the turn. Now go ahead. Play all your Oculuses. Play all your haughty gins. Didn't let my greed get the best of me this time. I wanted to swing in and double again. No. No. Make the spiders. Win the game. So we did it. And we liked it. A lot. Tumblewagg was too good at his guard dog job, so the police said he had to be retired. My grandpa was police chief back then. You got nothing, man. How do you bounce 16 different creatures in that deck? You don't. You don't. It's history. It's history. Kiss it goodbye. Kiss it. Shut up, Tommy. Come on, Plain Dane. Come on, Plain Dane. Come on.
My calculations are correct. When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious shit.
2 for you. 3 for you. Does this deck run anything that buffs things up? No. But it does run bounce, right? So we're going to toss 1 extra spider at each of them. Actually, we're going to toss a lot of extra spiders at the Oculus. But extra spiders at the Djinn actually kills more because of the high toughness. So we're only going to throw 1 extra spider at the Djinn. So he's got to have 2 bounce spells to save his Djinn. No matter what, the Oculus dies and we lose 2 spiders. Alright, we're down to 11 spiders. 11. Resolve all. I should have used the Soul Cauldron. Should have. I didn't, but I should have. I didn't, but I should have. Can you do it? Can you do it? I don't know if you can. I don't think you got it in you. So you got a 4. Seems good. Not killing the Tumblewagg. Not killing the Tumblewagg. What is happening? What even is life? Alright, well, we'll sack 1 spider to make 18 spiders. End the turn. All you need is spiders. It's fine. Nothing else matters. It's morphin' time! Yeah, I'm a Power Ranger. Alright. We keep this sucker. All day. Twitching Doll on 2. Everything Ever on 3. And it's all good in the hood. Llanowar Elves makes this deck so much better. It would be way slower without it. Way slower without it. Pass a turn. So next turn we'll have 5 mana. That's a lot of mana. Tumblewagg and Scourge, probably? Let's find our blue source. Oh god. It would be awesome if we could do 2 Scourges. Not realistic, though. Probably best to get the Tumblewagg out there so that we can attack with it saddled next turn. Just start building up those counters on the Twitching Doll. That way, while they're dealing with our actual threats, these are just building up, and we're just getting to those spiders way quicker. So next turn, we should have 5 mana. We should be able to Scourge for 1. If we draw a land, we definitely Scourge for 1. Innkeeper's Talent, hold up 2 to hold on to a Repulsive Mutation. If we don't draw a land, kind of hard to say. Like, we could Scourge for 2 and play the talent and be tapped out. We could also just maybe like wait a turn on the talent and make sure we can hold up Repulsive Mutation. No blocks. There's the land. There's the land. We are going to saddle. Maybe a saddle wait. Back in the saddle again. We want to hold up Repulsive Mutation, so we're going to saddle with this guy. Move to combat. Here. Here. Put counters on the Scourges. Put counters on the Scourges. Swing. Double. Put counters on the Scourges. And hold up a counterspell. That seems pretty good to me. We could have doubled the counters on the Twitching Doll, so it can pop off for spiders way quicker. But considering the deck that we're up against, I think just putting as much pressure on him and just closing the game before we ever need to make spiders is probably the way to go. Imperious, perfect. Alright, your dudes are buffed. So they're all 4/4s. We can't counter it, right? So we're not going to try to. Although, I don't know what's going on with our opponent. Hi. Do you play Magic the Gathering, Ninja Squirrels? I would like to play Magic the Gathering with you. One, two, three, four. We can just pay 4 into X and put 4 counters on something if we want. Which is gnarly. Doesn't attack. Alright, alright. Don't really have any creatures. So Soul Cauldron. Not super smart. We should have tapped this for a nest counter. I'm a dummy. Did you guys know that I'm a dummy? Did you guys know that I'm a dummy? Bet you didn't. Swing. Swing. Next to blockers. He wants to kill it. 4 and a 4. 9. We could Repulsive Mutation. I like it. What do we need? This is 8, right? So we need to Repulsive Mutation for 3. That's fine. Then we kill everybody. And then we make all of the spiders in the entire world and end the turn. Hi. Hello. Your elves are gone, sir. Where did all of your elves go? Oh, you still got one. What a good doobie. Well, Hedge Maze. Let's get rid of the passage. We're gonna do some real wild stuff. We're gonna do some really wild stuff. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, we could just win. Maybe it's better to just win. Maybe it's better to just win. Maybe it's better to just win. There's so much we can do, though. Like, as soon as we exile that spider with the Soul Cauldron, all these things with counters become mana dorks. Which is insane. But I don't even think we need to do that. Wildborn Preserver, sure. And hi. Hello. Hello. Let's get rid of this guy. And good night. And good night. We're gonna keep this. This looks really good. Start with the elves. The good old elves. I got plans. Hopeless Nightmare. Oh, well, there go all my plans. There go all my plans. We're gonna dump the Scourge. Since the Scourge can't get counters from the Mossborn Hydra getting counters, I think it's better to pick one of those right now. Alright, we're just going to do that. Protect our elves. Make him have to commit more if he wants to kill it. It's just going to go for the annex. That is fine. Now we play the Hydra. Now we go to combat. We get a counter on the Hydra. Then we play the Hedge Maze. We double the counters on the Hydra. We'll keep the Tumblewagg. And things are about to get really crazy. Aw, he's got the Anoint with Affliction. You, sir, are a dick. huge dick. No attacks. We're gonna hold up Repulsive Mutation in case we need to protect our dude. Bloodthirsty Conqueror. How about no? How about no? How about no to that? I vote no. Let's crew with the elf. Counter, counter. Double, double. Swing. Double again. And lethal. Let's go, baby. We've got some kind of expensive stuff, but we're going to try and keep it. We can Wildwood Scourge on 2. And then Tumblewagg. And that's not like the worst thing ever. It's not great, but it's not the worst thing ever. Sanctifier. We'll hide our blue for now. We will hide our blue for now. Valley Quest Caller. No blocks. No attacks. End the turn. Does he have removal for our Tumblewagg? We will find out. We will find out. Heir apparent. Have you ever been a parent of hair? A hair's parent? Have you ever been a hair's parent? Is what I'm asking. Twitchy, twitchy. Saddle. Next to combat. Counter here. Double here. Counter, counter. Let's go, baby. Swinging in for 10. He's gonna block all of the things. Well, we definitely want to kill the quest caller. And that bumps these guys down to 2 toughness each. Do that just in case. Alright, that's fine. Tumblewagg down. And the heir apparent's gone, so he can't get a... He's gonna always be 1 token short of what he could have been. Because we killed the heir apparent.
Let's roll!
Hey, thanks so much for the follow, Smoke. Appreciate you. Let's thin out the deck a bit here. One, two, three. We could add 4 counters to something and 1 to another. Swing, swing. Let's see what he does. He does nothing. Alright. Well, end the turn. Oh, how good is Repulsive Mutation with Twitching Doll? To Cage's welcome. Let's counter that. and put 1,000,000 counters on the Twitching Doll. Let's do that. Just 1,000,000 counters. No big deal. It's gonna take the 9. And we are about to go bananas. We'll make 5 spiders. Thank you. Thank you. Let's see. I think this is pretty good. We're gonna try and keep it. We can play a Hedge Maze on 1, try to set up our yard for an eventual Soul Cauldron, and dig closer to what we need. Look at all those lands, man. Maybe we do need to take some of the lands out. Well, we're going to keep the Mossborn Hydra since we have so many lands. It is what it is. Undercity Sewers, sure. So we're going to start with a Bristly Bill. Goodbye, Innkeeper's Talent. And that is fine. We'll go Bristly Bill. Next turn we'll go land Wildwood Scourge. And then the turn after that we'll go Mossborn Hydra 4th land. Founding the Third Path. Alright, what do you got? You got a cut down? Sleight of Hand. Okay, that's fine. Nobody's slowing me down. Good old Bristly Bill. It's coming to get you. Oops. Oopsie. Alright. Do a little bit of that. Do a little bit of this. Do a little bit of love. Okay, bounces the bill. He be bouncing Bill. That's fine. That's fine. I ain't worried about it. So why are you? Sleight of Hand. Sleight of Hand. The only thing is the Mossborn Hydra won't make the Scourge bigger. So I want to be careful with how we plan this next turn. Still think it's right to do this. We'll get the elves out. Hello. Mista. Bitter trial. It's kind of rude. Kind of rude. He's running out of gas though. He's gonna have to kill something again here with chapter 3. It's fine. We have a lot of value coming next turn. We bill, we land, we talent. And then we can even level 2 the talent, I think. Alright. Moment of truth. It certainly is the moment of truth. It certainly is. Bill. Hedge Maze. If he wants to get rid of the bill, I want him to do it now. So that we're free to do all of our other shenanigans with our other dudes. Yes, we'll keep the talent. We'll play a talent. Space out our counters a bit. We're not going to attack with the elves, though. We are not going to attack with the elves. We're just going to attack with the Scourge. See what he does. Into the flood moth. 𝐾𝐫𝐞𝐧𝐚. 𝐾𝐫𝐞𝐧𝐚. Alright, Rubio. Ruby! Come on. Prankster be picklocking. We got a Zombify. I don't think he's got a Valgavoth, though. Not yet, at least. Maybe he was waiting to get the Zombify, and now he's gonna... Oh, he's got a 𝑇𝑒𝑟𝑟𝑎𝑛𝑐𝑒. Okay. Okay. He's trying. No Valgavoth. 𝑥𝐿𝑇𝑒𝑟𝑟𝑎𝑛𝑐𝑒. We have 7 mana. 5, 6, 7. Alright, we're going to put 2 counters on something. It's going to double. Guess we'll do this. No attacks yet. We want to be able to block the 𝑇𝑒𝑟𝑟 and get it out of here so he can't just keep making 8/8s. And then next turn we're gonna go ham. Next turn we're gonna go ham. Well, he's got no tricks or anything. So we'll get rid of 𝑇𝑒𝑟𝑟𝑎. He'll zombify 𝑇𝑒𝑟𝑟𝑎. And that's fine. Oh, he didn't do it. He didn't do it. Jane says... Counter. Counter. All the doubling. Every single doubling. That's 24 damage. You can block with a Restless Reef, though. Which has Death Touch. And that's not good. So we're actually not going to attack. Because if he doesn't block with the 8/8, just blocks with the Death Toucher, he could crack back and possibly have some shenanigans going on with 𝑇𝑒𝑟𝑟𝑎. or with the zombify? I'd rather just get even bigger, to the point where one of these creatures by themselves will just be lethal. Okay, I guess he's just scooping it up. Thanks so much for checking out my channel. I'd like to give a huge shout out to all of my patrons over at Patreon. Without you guys, this channel would not be possible, so honestly, thank you from the bottom of my heart for all of your contributions. If you haven't yet, like and subscribe. The more likes we get and the quicker we get them, the bigger this channel will grow and the faster it will grow. I'd love nothing more than this channel to become something very special for you guys, but it's entirely up to you how fast that happens. Also, if you'd like more deck text, that's somewhere over there, and if you'd like to see what else the channel's been up to lately, that's somewhere up that way. Also, subscribe, circle below, do all the things.